We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome to the Book Beat. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and this is a show where we feature authors talking about their latest books and guest experts in the world of writing and publishing. And more than that, this is a show with homework. We want you to find a good book to read this week, and if you can't find one, maybe think about writing the book that you would like to read. So that's why we feature experts on the show to kind of help you find out how to make your writing better and find your way through the brave new world of self-publishing and the traditional world, which is where I come from, mainstream publishing. So, and I want to note that the shows are produced by Susan Levin and speakerservices.com, who lines up all of these amazing guests for us. So thank you so much, Susan. I want to get, let me tell you who the three guests are, and then I want to get right to our first guest, Mark Allen, and he is author of The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World That Works for All. And he's also the co-founder with Shakti Gawain of New World Library, which is a wonderful traditional publishing company in Northern California. And we also will have later on Anita Rosenberg joining us, author of two books, Practical Magic and Household Luck and Feng Shui Luck, and Darlene Quinn, who is author of the Webs series, and she is going to talk about her most recent book, Unpredictable Webs. So let me tell you about our first guest, who woke up at the age of 30 realizing that he had no money, no job, and no direction in his life. And he says that throughout his 20s, he was a poverty case who couldn't hold a steady job and lived in fear most of the time. But he's doing okay today. He's Mark Allen, who co-founded New World Library and who wrote the groundbreaking book, Creative Visual. That was Shakti Gawain who wrote the groundbreaking book, really, for that time, Creative Visualization. And today, 35 years later, Mark is a multimillionaire who has written several wonderful books himself, including the classic Visionary Business, and created courses that help others implement the tools that changed his life. And his latest book is The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World That Works for All. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
It's wonderful to have you on the show. I'm really excited about this.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really enjoying your show.
Good. Already, eh? Well,
yes.
So when you were really at that low point that I've just mentioned, I heard, because I sneaked a look at your YouTube video, which about the book, that
yes.
You were really physically and emotionally kind of hitting bottom. And then what happened? You remembered like a book that you had seen when you were in college, right?
Yeah. I remembered a book I'd seen at age 21 called The Art of True Healing. I'd actually always kind of carried it around with me. It's this little small book. I carried it through my 20s, but it was really my early 30s that I started seriously getting into it. And there's a simple little exercise there that changed my life, doing this little thing.
Wow.
Definitely had this powerful impact on me. The first time I did it in my early 20s, I had just left college. I left after 3.5 years, and I was definitely then at my worst physically, mentally, and emotionally. I had periods of depression, and I had taken way too much methadone in college to keep up with college, and I was in horrible health. And I found this book, The Art of True Healing by Israel Regardie, and it had a little exercise that I started to do mainly because I did it flat on my back, and I'm extremely lazy. I always have been. I'm not a morning person. I don't do Mondays or mornings. I don't meditate regularly sitting up. But I found this one I could do just laying down flat on my back. And I started doing it. And the first time I did it, just laying on the flat of my back and doing this little meditation has in there called the middle pillar meditation, where all you do is imagine energy at the top of your head, your crown chakra. Imagine the light energy there, and imagine that it's healing energy, and then it slowly just pours or melts through your whole body from top to bottom, healing every cell. And I remember the first time I did that, I got up and I felt like a different person. I felt lighter. I definitely felt healthier. It had never even occurred to me that our minds can have a tremendous influence over the health of our bodies. That thought had never even occurred to me before I did this little meditation.
Well, it's interesting that that book popped into your mind, isn't it? You maybe do you think you were kind of ready for that information, right?
Yeah, I was ready, finally. It took me until the day I turned 30 to wake up to some things.
Tough customer.
And I woke up in a state of shock. I remember thinking, I'm not a kid anymore. I heard this voice.
Yeah.
You're not a kid anymore. You're 30. What are you going to do with your life?
I'm 30 and I'm sick and I'm poor and all those things.
It's a big one. It was a big one for me. And at age 30, I had nothing going on. I tried all kinds of creative things in my 20s, but everything had fallen apart. And at 30, I had no job, and I realized I had no goal even.
So things started to change really fast after you did this middle pillar meditation?
Really fast, really fast. They started changing really fast after my 30th birthday. And I did that middle pillar meditation, and then I imagined, as I was deeply relaxed, I remembered a little game I'd played when I was about 22 during a Back to the Land experience too, where I just imagined, we were asked to imagine 5 years have passed and things have gone as well as you could imagine. What would your life look like in 5 years? And I did that, relaxed in that deep middle pillar meditation. I imagined 5 years had passed and I was 35, which to me at the time was
really
tremendously old. Yes, really, 35. I mean, that's an adult. You can't imagine you're still a teenager when you're 35.
Right.
So I imagined 35, and much to my amazement, I imagined having a publishing company and having written books and put out my music, and I had done none of that.
What were you doing at the time in your life?
When I turned 30, I'd had, well, through my 20s, I wandered around doing what I loved, and it was the 60s and 70s, so it really was a time where we tried all kinds of different cultures. We were countercultural, or cultural creatives, as Paul Ray put it in his great book. Yeah. We tried new cultures, new lifestyles, and I tried many things. I tried a theater company, communal arrangement. I tried a Back to the Land experiment. I tried living with a couple different gurus and things, a Zen center experiment, and then I had a rock band for a while and lived that life. And then everything fell apart. And my late 20s, I just went from one job to another. I got fired, and I was living in a little slum apartment in Oakland. And that's when I woke up and realized I was 30. And I dared to imagine 5 years. That day changed my life. I took a sheet of paper then, and I put ideal scene at the top. I did this one thing. To this day, I teach it. It's so simple and so effective. I've never forgotten it. I took a sheet of paper, put ideal scene in big letters at the top. Imagine I was 35, living my ideal. What would it look like? Much to my amazement, what sprang out was I have this publishing company. It's very successful. In fact, it cruises on its own, and I don't even have to work regularly at all. I have a life of ease. That was a big part of my ideal scene. I have success with ease.
Well, that was interesting that you built that into
plenty
it.
Of time to do my music and to just have for myself and to write.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to be, my doubts and fears said impossible, it can't work. But I got around my doubts and fears.
Well, and you said an interesting thing, too, about that visualization, because didn't you say that, a lot of times people will do like one thing at a time, like let's start with creating more money, or let's start with, creating more health, whatever. But you say that part of this middle pillar meditation is that you can really imagine everything that you want, right?
Yes. That was one of the first things my doubts and fears came up with once I dared dream my ideal. They said, "Oh, it's way too much, Mark. You're talking about founding a company, developing a writing career and a musical career, and getting into real estate," because part of my dream was a big white house on a hill, and having a life of ease. It's impossible. And they said, pick one thing, focus on that. And I thought about that for just a few seconds and realized, no, the point of this is to dream my ideal, and my ideal is multifaceted. I want to run a publishing company. I love doing that part-time. I love writing books part-time. I love playing music. I want to do it all.
So and how long did you was this like 5 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day? It doesn't sound like you worked really, really hard at this, right?
No, I didn't. I really am undisciplined. I realized many years ago that anything that requires daily discipline is something I am not capable of doing or willing to do. I remember saying, okay, I'm going to read my list of affirmations, because I wrote my ideal scene. Within that, I realized there was a list of goals, and I listed them, like 12 of them. Start a publishing company, start writing a book, start recording your music, start learning about real estate. Those were my early goals. Then I rewrote each one as an affirmation. I learned about affirmations through my 20s. And I rewrote each one as, it's happening now. I am now creating a successful publishing company in an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way. I'm now writing powerful books. I made a list of affirmations, and I told myself, okay, I'll read them every day. Well, I didn't at all, maybe a couple times a week. But I did carry them around with me. I do that to this day. I carried them around in my pocket. So it felt like in some way I was absorbing those.
Yeah, you were connected to them, at least.
Yeah. And sure enough, over the next few months, single-page plans kept emerging for each goal. Whatever goal I was affirming, suddenly I could sit down after a week or two and make a plan. I made a plan for real estate. I made a plan for my company. I made a plan for my writing career on a single sheet of paper.
So it seems like, the details were filling in, kind of, as you were focusing. Because this is reminding me of, I'm kind of into Abraham Hicks quite a bit. And
good.
Momentum. And right now he's talking a lot about that. And he does say very much what you're saying, I think, is that as you get that momentum going, and he talks about initially, 17 seconds, then you add, get up to 68. But it sounds like you were maybe unconsciously doing that by thinking those thoughts. Do you think that's what was happening, that sort of the cooperative components were kind of arranging themselves here to,
Yes, I know, looking back on it, thinking about it, the process, I keep saying we'll never understand the process, really. And to me, I could never, my mind would never go from 17 seconds to a certain, that's amazing when people go there. But for me, I see it as really simply, the day I turned 30, I did get a clear goal in mind. This is my goal. I want to start a company. I want to write a book. I want to record my music. Those are my goals. And as soon as I clearly focused on that, the first steps became obvious. All the steps, just as Eckhart says in The Power of Now, my favorite of all time books, he says, get the inside right and the outside will fall into place. Yes. That's exactly what I found.
That's what you did.
I would lay down occasionally and just visualize, just imagine that 5-year, the life I want. My big white house on a hill, big tree in the yard, lots of leisure time, a beautiful company cruising along. I kept imagining that, and the next steps became very obvious and simple.
Right. So then you knew how to take action, inspired action, right?
Yeah.
And in your book, The Magical Path, sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask you, I was going to ask you about how in The Magical Path, your most recent book, do you kind of break this down for us so that we can kind of do what you did?
What was the beginning of that question again? I was talking.
I'm sorry. In The Magical Path, I just wanted to make sure we do have time to talk about your book here. In The Magical Path, is that what you do? Like, it's a book about real magic, I know. Do you break down this into sort of steps that we can take to do what you did, to, the way you changed your life?
Yes, exactly. I realized the steps I took were really quite simple. I even give all kinds of different alternatives. It's a matter of really finding what works for you, defining what success really means to you, and then finding your own unique way to get there. And so there's many options and alternatives. When I look at the people who've been successful doing what I love, they've all done it in so many different ways. You know? And so it's fine. It's definitely finding your own way. But I do give a lot of options and really take your hand. And for me, it was just what I've said, writing my ideal scene in 5 years, making a list of goals, affirming those goals, and for each goal having a one-page plan with the next few steps clearly on it, and then taking those steps. It was that easy. Although overcoming all the doubts and fears that arose during the process was the big challenge. But when I look back, really all of the important work, or the vast majority, was inner work.
Yeah.
The outer work does take care of itself. It just falls into place, as Eckhart says.
Right.
The outer work, it's a done deal once you get the inner work done. And we can do that inner work. It's not easy. It's not complicated. It is easy.
Yeah, it's just about staying focused, isn't it? And then, of course, I
Yes.
know that you deal with you say it's a book about real magic. And let me do my little journalist thing here, because, some people would say that, they have negative views of magic. But how do you explain, the reality of magic and how it can work in your life?
Right. I talk about that in the book. It's all on how you define magic. And if you don't like the word, you can pick another word. You can call it creative visualization. You can call it, even affirming. You can even call it strategic planning if you have a business plan. You don't have to call it magic. Whatever you call it, there is a force we can access, a creative force, and we can definitely connect with it and create changes in our lives. Call it what you will. I tell people, if I know a lot of people have negative associations with magic. Okay. I've always had positive ones. I've always loved magic as a kid, and the whole
Right.
idea of it has fascinated me. But if you don't want to call it magic, that's fine. Call it strategic planning.
Yeah,
Call it
and
what
when you
will.
say strategic planning, I think of focus, and isn't it really about focus, kind of, whatever you call it, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And there's nothing new in it. It's about clearly focusing on where you want to be in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And once you clearly focus on it, the next steps to take will just become obvious and easy to take.
And you say that I know you have a chapter on time and money, and that
Yes.
you said it's your favorite chapter. Why is that?
I quote a little short poem, another book I found in my mid to late 20s that really had an impulse, was As You Think by James Allen. It
Yes.
was originally called As a Man Thinketh, and
Right.
we did a version called As You Think. In there, he has a poem about spirit, and one little line of it starts with, "You will be what you will to be." And one little line in there is, "It masters time. It conquers space." And I remember latching onto that phrase, mastering time. Oh, is it possible to master time? And then it just became so obvious to me. Time and money are the two big ones for most people. They sure were for me in my late 20s, early 30s. Time and money were things I had not mastered. In fact, they were big problems in my life. There was not enough of each. And I finally got it through my thick skull that time and money itself are beyond our belief. But we all have beliefs about time and money. And whatever we believe becomes self-fulfilling in our lives. It isn't as if there really is not enough money in the world. It's if we believe there's not enough money, then there's not enough money. But if we can change that belief, and we can, and I found a process called the core belief process where we can literally change our beliefs. Once we change our beliefs about time and money, maybe there really is plenty of time, plenty of money. Many people have those beliefs.
Yeah.
That there's plenty of time and plenty of money. So why don't I choose to have those beliefs?
Right. It
I
sounds like
literally
this
changed my beliefs about time and money, and my whole experience of them completely changed.
Wow.
I have plenty of time and I have plenty of money in my life.
Wow. And you've got that White House on the top of the hill, right, with the tree?
Yep, I sure do.
That's amazing.
Beautiful house.
Mark, thank you. You are always welcome on this show. And New World Library, in my journalist days, I worked with Marjorie Conte there, who was your publicist for many years.
Yes, I love Marjorie.
Yes. Yeah, and you are always welcome on the show to update us on what's happening with New World Library and your own works, your own projects, and your authors. And where can people? Well, we know we can get it through New World Library, but I guess get it on Amazon as well. Your book.
Sure, Amazon or New World Library or your independent local booksellers will have books by Mark Allen. The Magical Path is my latest. Or Visionary Business.
Which is a classic.
Check it out.
Yes. Yeah. And Mark, you do realize I'm a journalist and a metaphysician, and now you've given me this middle pillar meditation technique. So I have already visualized my next book published by New World Library. So
yes.
better work.
Well, you've got my email. Send it to me. I'm happy to look at it.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Anita Rosenberg, and she is the author of 2 books, Practical Magic and Household Luck and Feng Shui Luck, and she is going to be joining us shortly. She's got techniques that transform your living and working space from chaos to serenity, which is something that sounds like a very good idea. So stay tuned. Just going to take a short intermission here at the Book Beat here at LA Talk Live, where we are more than just talk.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or even pay-per-click ads? And that about 46% of all online users count on social media when making that ever-important purchase decision. Hey, if you feel lost when it comes to social media, Top Tier Media can help you. Top Tier Media specializes in social media management and blogger outreach for beauty, fashion, health, and lifestyle brands. To learn more, go to www.toptiermedia.com. That's www.toptiermedia.com. Top Tier Media, the official social media marketing company of LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McCade's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Hi. Well, we're back with the Book Beat, and that bumper music, by the way, is by my brother, Rick Fleischman. So thank you, Rick, as always. Love it. And we're here with Anita Rosenberg, who is our special guest this segment, and she is the go-to expert in Los Angeles, Aspen, India, and Panama. That's a wide...
That is a wide spectrum of places.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
That's your neighborhood, huh?
Yes.
In classical feng shui and Bassior Chinese astrology. Did
Correct.
I say that?
Yes,
okay.
you did.
Great. With degrees from the Western School of Feng Shui and Mastery Academy of Chinese Metaphysics. She blends Western and classical Chinese metaphysics with Hollywood glamour to transform and illuminate the homes, businesses, and lives of each of her clients. And I know you've been featured on VH1, the Mundos Network, Discovery Channel, HGTV, and you've got 2 new books out, right?
I do. Actually, I have a third book that, excuse me, is going to be printed up next week. But we'll talk about the 2 that I have.
Okay. And that first one, now I saw in selling on Amazon. I noticed when you want to hold it up, the painted
this one?
furniture. Yeah, because you wanted at one time to be the Ralph Lauren of painted furniture, right? And so all these all these celebrities collect your stuff, like Tom Hanks and Spike Lee. And
They do. I have George Clooney and Jennifer
Yeah.
Aniston, and my actually, I'm kind of excited because I have about 25 pieces on the set of a new show. It's not new. It's been on. You know the show The Middle on
Yeah.
ABC. It's a comedy like before Modern Family.
Yeah.
So the set decorator, Julie Fanton, is a friend of mine and fan of my work. And when she was designing the set, she came over to my studio and she pulled out tons of things. So whenever I watch the show, I go, there's my piece there and
Yeah.
there's my piece there. And so it's pretty
And
exciting.
Friends too. You had things
Friends,
on
I
the
had
set.
quite a lot of artwork on Friends. So when I run
Yeah.
into the cast members, I go, do you remember that piece that was over here and over there?
Oh wow, wow! They probably wish they could take it home with them, right?
I don't know, but you were talking because you've done traditional publishing and self-publishing. So I got excited about books, which I love making books with the art of painted furniture because I was known as the queen of painted furniture, and I was at the trade shows. And Sterling Publishing, which then became part of Barnes and Noble,
Right.
came to me and said, "We have a title, The Art of Painted Furniture. Would you write the book?" And I had such an amazing experience and loved doing it, which kind of I think led to my other books.
Yeah.
And I'd love to actually just show this too. This is my mother-daughter project I did with my mom.
Oh.
It's called Thursdays with Mom and Michael, and we won an independent
Beverly
gold
Hills
medal
book
award.
award.
No, this is
Oh,
an
no.
IPP
Oh, okay.
gold medal award, and all our proceeds actually go to breast cancer research. It's the Evelyn Lauder Foundation. What happened was my mother was throwing these lovely dinner parties in Aspen, and every week she would have 10 new guests, and she'd have her chef, Michael, who's only available Thursdays. And I just felt creatively, my sister's artistic, I'm artistic, and my mother is. I just wanted to kind of create something that was kind of could be her sort of legacy to leave behind. She hates for me to say that. So we started photographing her parties, and we didn't really think that we were going to turn it into a book. I
Wow.
had showed it to my agent at the time, and their comment was, well, if you're not Ralph Lauren, who's going to care? So we thought, you know what? We're going to make our own book. We're going to self-publish it. We printed it in China. And we decided that all our proceeds would then go to breast cancer research. And I have a really good picture of Melanie Griffith and Sharon Stone holding copies of the book that they had gotten from me at
Oh, I think I
Jones
saw
on
that
Third.
online, right? That's online.
It
too,
was
is that?
so strange
Yeah.
because so the girls get the book, and I know Melanie's in Aspen, and she knows the chef that's in our book. And all of a sudden, a couple days later, a friend of mine is in Germany, and she's in the dentist's office reading a book that's like a People Are in Us magazine. And there was the picture of the two girls holding the book.
Oh,
What's
that's
the
great.
chances I would even find that
Yeah,
out? Isn't that funny?
That's wonderful. And in this this brave new world of self-publishing, that is such a great thing. That when you have an idea like that, I mean, you can sort of do it without the traditional publisher, right?
And it depends. I mean, the downside for me on this is not my career. So there really wasn't anything for me to continue on with the marketing. It was our family book and our family project, and it is on Amazon, and we sell it in Aspen.
But you always have to market yourself these days.
Right, you do,
Even as
right.
you probably know, even with a traditional publisher, after the 2 weeks of publicity that you get from the publicist at the house, New World Library, our previous guest company, is a little bit better than most, and so is Hay House, but usually it falls back on the author, as you probably know, right?
Well, I know from the first book, which is disappointing, I got a small advance and never saw anything. So
Right.
it's, publishing's come a long way, which is why. So it leads me to, what happened was I speak in India and I speak around the world to YPO, WPO. Do you know what those groups are? It's Young Presidents Organization, and it's an international group of business men and women who own their own business and make over a certain amount of money. It's a very prestigious group, and I'm a speaker for them. And I went to Panama to speak, and they said, do you have a book on your feng shui? I went to speak on feng shui and Bassior astrology, and I was like, no, I don't have a book. Had I had a book, they would have ordered 65 copies for everyone. And that's when I went, oh, well, I need
Better get one.
I need a book that makes me an expert in my subject.
Right.
So I spent the summer and I made 3 books, and my 3 books are based on the Chinese metaphysics, the cosmic trinity of Chinese metaphysics. Do you know what that is?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Well, I'll share with you because
Yeah.
I heard that you're actually into metaphysics, so you might find it interesting. But so there's 3 aspects that control our lives, and each is 1/3. So we have heaven luck, earth luck, and man luck. Our earth luck is our feng shui. So we either live a place that supports us or doesn't, right? You go into someone's home, it feels yummy or great, or your own home, or you go into someone's office, and that is your feng shui. That's your earth luck, and that's only, 1/3 of the equation of your success in life and happiness, and 1/3 is then your heaven luck. Your heaven luck is your Bassior Chinese astrology. It can be your Western astrology or Vedic astrology, but it's you were born at a certain time in a certain place, and you have a chart that sort of maps out your destiny and your strengths and your weaknesses and sort of your life, right? And that's 1/3 of the equation. And then 1/3 is called man luck. And that's not searching for a guy at the bar. But man luck is, what are you going to do about it? Man luck is, I know people are saying, but man luck is your actions you take or do not take. It's sort of your last guest talking about positive thinking and affirmation. It could be magical candles. It's Buddha statues and Kuan Yin and Ganesh and crystals. And that's super powerful. That's 1/3 of the equation. So my point is, I kind of wanted to educate people on this cosmic trinity because I think it's important to balance all three, that's what I did with the book. So my first one's the practical magic and household luck. Second one is the feng shui luck. And then the one I'm finishing up is called heavenly luck. And I created them sort of as a do-it-yourself, kind of how to guide something there's not anything on the market. I mean, there's plenty of feng shui books, but as far as the other two aspects, the things that have combined crystals and statues and Ganeshas, and then also I'm one of the few people in the West that does Bassior Chinese astrology, and it's not a do-it-yourself practice. So it was kind of challenging and exciting to try to create material that could get you started on the subject.
So you really can start on your own with this, then, actually.
That is the goal. That's the idea. And actually, I'm doing a lot of workshops this fall to kind of promote the projects that the books that I have, but also I want to be able to educate people on what are these subjects, how can you sort of start and do it yourself. And obviously, if you're really interested and you really want to work on your self-improvement and your self-help and you really want to go deeper into things, of course, then you should always hire an expert that comes in.
Right. But, let's talk about what really feng shui is, because I think a lot of people are a little confused about that. Some people definitely know. But, you defined it as sort of this intangible force that arranges things in order, which Asian cultures, take seriously. It's very real. But what do you think this force is, and how does it know this order?
So feng shui is 4,000, maybe 5,000 years old. And it is about qi. Qi is the life force energy, right? And really the essence of it means wind and water, but essentially what feng shui is where's the mountain, where's the water? And you look in the environment. If your house or physical space is in a location that has a really bad area, it's in it's not supported by positive energy, like having a lovely water source there or mountains. And in the city, mountains are seen as tall buildings and water is seen as fast moving roads. But if you notice, there's certain neighborhoods where the property value is always high, right? When you're located in mountains or by the water, somewhere kind of yummy and lovely. And then you go to some neighborhoods and they're crappy neighborhoods, and they don't have a lot of good positive qi. So it's really difficult to have a house or environment and a bad neighborhood or an area that has no positive qi. You can't bring positive qi into a house if it doesn't exist in the environment. So originally it was really created like, where's the mountain range? Where's the water range? So the concept, I'll sort of give you the idea, is that you want to sit in what's called the belly of the dragon. So the belly of the dragon is kind of, Hong Kong is a great example. So in Hong Kong, you've got Victoria Harbor for the water, and you've got the big mountain range. And the idea was that, this is a story I put in the book, which I think is a good sort of analogy. Is so you have this farmer, and he's going to build a new house, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to build my house on the top of the mountain because I'm going to have an amazing view. But he's way up on top of the mountain, and the winds are blowing too hard and blows his place away, and it's just too destructive. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to go down and now build my house down by the water because I'll be closer to the water so I can have the water source. Well, he's down so close to the water, it floods his house out and his yard out. So where does he really want to be? 2/3 up the mountain. 2/3 up the mountain, he's close enough to get the water. He's far enough up, he's got a nice view. And you're feeling like you're in the armchair embrace. So ideally, that's kind of what we're going for in feng shui. Does that make sense?
It does,
and
but
a
of
broad
course,
stroke.
The obvious question is, what if we are in a crappy neighborhood? Because can't you bring this energy of feng shui into your apartment or house, wherever it's located, and sort of improve the energy by how you arrange things to make it more serene?
Well, look, we all want to live in a sacred space and our private sanctuary, right? So the idea is that you have your big chi. Your big chi is your environment. But look, you go for the gold standard, but is there any perfect feng shui? There is not. Even when I know my teacher, who's Joey Yap, who's out of Malaysia, he gets hired to go to India and find a factory location. And even when you can pick your own location and pick everything, there is no perfect feng shui. So we go through our checklist and we check as many good things that we can. So ideally, let's say you're in an area that doesn't feel like it has. I mean, the bad feng shui areas would be you have a giant tower, electrical tower in front of you. You're at the end of a T intersection. I mean, there's some things that I'm sorry, you're just not going to have great energy in there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're right, with electromagnetic, like some huge PG&E plant right next to you want to move, right? I mean,
Right. So there's some areas that you ideally would prefer not to be located. But then the next thing is called your small chi. Then you come in the front door and you want to make sure that your interior environment is supportive. So the rooms that really in classical Chinese feng shui are important is your front entrance, which is called your bright hall, your bedrooms, and your kitchen. And nowadays a home office, because in the old Chinese days you didn't have a home office.
Yeah, but now we have a lot of them.
Right. So you just want to make sure you're sitting in your power position. You want to make sure your bedroom is set up correctly so that it's supportive and relaxing and you can recharge your battery. And most important, you want your front entrance when you come in to just usher in good chi, circulate it, and then take it through the house.
So you're saying that and I'm doing this for people who may not, who may have been a little bit confused about feng shui, so I want to make sure we understand it. So if you arrange the furniture in the room in a certain way, you are maximizing the flow of qi kind of through the room. Is that sort of what's going on?
Well, it is qi. I know that in Western feng shui, people think about let's clear our clutter and where's the couch.
Right.
That's Western feng shui, and I did that for 8 years. And if I had to tell one more person to clear their clutter, I was just going to scream.
I have the feng shui book by Karen
Rausch Carter.
Clearing the clutter.
Oh no, there's another clearing. Karen Kingston.
Karen. Exactly. Yeah.
Those are all people I love, and I love all that. I needed to take my practice in and working with people to the next level, which is why I've studied classical. And classical Chinese feng shui there's a compass, and the compass tells me directions, and it lets me know what are your 4 good sectors and your 4 not so good sectors. And there are rules and regulations. What I tried to do in the book is take the Western things that I loved, and I tried to also give you the myths and truths of feng shui. I added some numerology in because your house numbers all mean something.
Yeah, you talk about lucky house numbers.
Yeah. But that's not feng shui, and I'll go through that quickly because it's kind of interesting. But I also just wanted to educate people on what is really feng shui and what is not. Like putting your toilet lid down, I did it for years. I swear I thought that kept my money in, but really it's not. It really it doesn't matter if your seat is up or down as far as your money. It's always more attractive to put your lid down.
I've never made that association.
That's always one of them. But because they have limited time out, you want me to go through the house numbers?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Everyone can have a good takeaway. So you add up all your numbers in your house and reduce it to a single digit. So you just keep adding it till you get, like, for instance, what's your house number?
2430.
So I can't. I'm off the top of my head.
Okay, so it's 9.
Because that's good. That is good.
I think, right? 3, 4, 5. No, wait a minute. Maybe it's 24, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 9.
It's 9. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what? We'll start at 9 and go down since you're 9. 9 is the ultimate number because if you added numbers 1 through 8 and reduced them to a single digit, you get 9. So 9 is really completion of projects, sort of ultimate number. That's an excellent number to have. Then 8 is the number of money. So that's a house that holds the wealth in really well. 7 is for spirituality. It's about things that money can't buy. So when I'm working on a house with a 7, I want to see, is there a Zen garden? Is there a koi pond? Or do you have spiritual statues? You want to kind of add that spiritual element. 6 is of service to others. So it tends to be a place that holds the energy for people that might be doctors or nurses or hairdressers or anyone that's in the service industry. And number 5 tends to be creative. It's sort of like, that's 3. 5 is actually jet set world travelers. Those tend to be people that are always entertaining. Those are houses that are full of energy and action. They're always in and out of town. 4 actually in Chinese means death, but in this numerology, it means grounding. It's a really good number for people that are on the rise in their career or famous people to have as their stability and grounding. 3 is creative. So in a creative house, you want to make sure, is there an art room? Is there a music room? Is there creative space? 2 is for couples. It holds the energy of 2, but you have to make sure, and at 2, you're not always in the house hanging out together. You want to make sure you're getting out and about. And 1 is a little difficult. 1 is new beginnings and sort of new, but it only holds the energy of 1. It's really difficult to have a marriage or relationship in a number 1. You find a lot of people who are starting new businesses or on the move or new or just divorced or single do really well in a number 1.
That's interesting. Tell us a story about somebody that you've helped, a space you've gone into and transformed, so we can get a sense of how you work with a client.
Okay, let's see. 3 minutes.
Well, or if that, if you have a quick story, if not, tell us something from one of the books, that, help us to know what you have in there, so we'll know, like.
Okay. Gosh, nothing is coming to mind off.
Okay.
I mean, one of my clients I work with is Paula Abdul, and I adore Paula. She's really interesting. So I came in with her. She was trying to sell her house. And so that was kind of interesting because when you're doing sort of a listing blitz, you want to make sure that you clear all your personal things out. But, people are going to buy Paula's house because it's Paula's house. So you want to make sure people come in and realize that. But the thing that I also did for her that was interesting, she was looking for a new space to live in. So I was given quite a few addresses to kind of check and see, did they match her? Did they fit her? Will they support her? And that's somebody called me today. They're looking for 2 apartments and they want to know, should I take this apartment or that? And that's maybe a service that people don't know that feng shui can do.
No, I didn't know about that at all. Just what if your street address is like a 9, but your apartment address is like a 5?
What is closest to you affects you the most. So your apartment number would affect you more.
I see.
And then the building number would more like affect the building in general and sort of give you that kind of feeling.
So is all of these little things are in the book, like kind of little things like addresses and little other things that we.
Absolutely. And I also added in, shapes, because I just did a listing for a house that was not a square rectangle, and Asian buyers were not interested in the house because Asian buyers tend to want to go with some classical Chinese feelings. But so when your house is a strange shape, because architecturally could be interesting, you just want to see who's being affected in that. In this particular house, what was being affected were the boys, the sons in the house, but this family had no sons. They had a daughter and was getting pregnant, but the woman had already had a baby, so it wasn't affecting her. But it was also had the lonely aspect. And she said, I do feel kind of lonely in this house, and they're trying to sell it. So that kind of gives me the idea of what's going on in their life. A house really does reflect what's happening. And I think the important thing I maybe want to leave with people is that you want to personalize your feng shui. You don't want to just slap generic feng shui onto a space. You want to know what's happening with you and what are your goals and what are you trying to anchor in your life. And then those are the things that you want to do it. Otherwise, you're just giving someone some generic feng shui thoughts. Does that help you a little?
Right. So you're a consultant with these books, and that you can go in and read the space and kind of like give it that personal, kind of work with them personally, right?
Right. Well, the houses talk to me, and it's kind of freaky. Like when I go and do space cleansing and energy work, they literally chat and they tell me interesting things. It's alive. It's a live energy. So
you're
that's
a house
another
whisperer.
aspect. A house whisperer, and I listen.
There's your brand.
It was my brand a while ago until 3 other people
Really?
were house whisperers.
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
I thought that was original.
I had logos and everything until I realized I wasn't the only house whisperer.
Oh,
but
dear.
that's okay. But I do house whisper. So how's that?
I thought I was being so creative.
I know you are. But you know what? It's a good brand.
Maybe you should go back to it. Yeah, well, thank you so much. And how can people get in touch with you?
You know what? My website's a great website. It's www.anitarosenberg.com. And you can join my newsletter on it. And I'm doing some workshops coming up in Los Angeles that are terrific. So that's actually the best way to get a hold of me.
ROSENBERG.
Correct.
AnitaRosenberg.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, next, we have our guest, Darlene Quinn, is going to join us, and she has written what she calls her Webs series, and the latest one is Unpredictable Webs. And she has a lot of experience in the world of high fashion, and I know that sometimes this figures into her books. And she actually, if you've ever heard of Bullock's Wilshire in Los Angeles, that is like a real landmark. It was a wonderful department store, and she has great stories to tell. So stay tuned. This is the Book Beat. We're here at LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey everybody, it's Miss R&B, and I'm inviting you to come and hang with me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. PST for Perspectives Corner with Roro Bennett on America Talk Live. Hear and see interviews and live performances from some of our favorite celebrities and personalities in entertainment, sports, business, and the wellness industries. We're getting lifted and we're going deep, talking about life and empowering the champion in us all. See you there.
Hi, and welcome back to the Book Beat. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and that music, by the way, is my brother's music, Rick Fleischman. Thanks so much for that bumper music. And I'm here with Darlene Quinn, and she has written a series of books, Webs of Fate, Webs of Power, Twisted Webs, and your latest is Unpredictable Webs, right?
That's right.
And Darlene Quinn is an award-winning author and journalist from Long Beach, California. And so her series of novels, all of those books we just mentioned, have garnered international acclaim and have given her an avid fan base around the world. And the fourth novel in the series, which has just been released, Unpredictable Webs?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And that's the one we're going to talk about today, is just out, and it won the Beverly Hills Book Award. And also what's interesting is you finished one of Buddy Ebsen's incomplete manuscripts for a Barnaby Jones.
Yes, I did.
Wow, novel. And that's called Sizzling Cold Case.
Yeah.
And she's been published in Savvy magazine, in Keeping World. And she used to be on the management team at Bullock's Wilshire Department Stores, which is just an icon if you're from Los Angeles. That was like an amazing department store, and they're kind of fading. They're not like that anymore, really. But it was a landmark here in LA. So welcome to the Book Beat.
Thank
and
you.
Tell us about the web series. What are they about?
Well, actually, when I started writing, I didn't know I was writing a series. I started writing because there were so many fascinating people in the world of retail. And it was during the time when there were leverage buyouts, corporate takeovers. And so the first book that I wrote was Webs of Power, and that's what I thought it would be awesome.
It got pretty brutal for a while. I remember when Macy's bought Bullock's, right? And there seemed to be this, wasn't there a period when they were kind of buying each other out or something?
That is Webs of Power. In fact, one of the things I discovered when I learned to write fiction is fiction has to be believable. And Webs of Power is the story of the Federated Department Stores and the selling off of Bullock's Wilshire, and I-Magnons to Macy's. And so I have a corporate raider, a man who has had 2 nervous breakdowns, liposuction, a facelift, a hair transplant. He fills his pool with mineral water. But because fiction has to be believable, I did not give my corporate raider a wife and family in one city and a mistress and family in the other. All true of Robert Campo, a Canadian who came to the U.S., fell in love with Bloomingdale's, when after all of Federated could not afford all of it and sold the West Coast, Bullock's Wilshire, and I-Magnons to Macy's.
And that was kind of a shock when it happened at the time, because I think the fear was quality would kind of disappear, right?
Well, and a lot of that has happened.
Right.
I talk to women from coast to coast that lament the favorite the loss of their favorite department stores.
Right, right.
Because Macy's was not the same as Bullock's Wilshire,
Right,
High
right.
Magnons.
So do you set your novels in that high fashion world? Is that where most of them are set?
Yes. I write faction. I write character-driven novels based on real events. However, I also write page-turning suspense, and I don't let the facts get in the way of a riveting story.
Now, what age is it? Are these adult books for adults or young adult, or what's the?
Do you know, it's really hard to tell because I have customers, buyers all over the map. I thought that mine were more for mature women in the fashion area that, loved fashion and that kind of thing. Also for readers that like to learn, get smarter about things they've heard and read about without having to work too hard, which is the kind of reader that I am. I'm a novel reader, and yet I sort of like to get an insider's view and learn about things that I don't want to go to nonfiction. I want to enjoy the ride. I want to have wonderful characters to go with.
So you sort of take us into this world of department stores, and kind of behind the scenes, what really goes on.
Right. That is absolutely what I do. However, that is the background. My books, in terms of being in the world of retail, high-end department stores, is the same as setting a novel in World War II. What's happening in my department store world is factual. However, that's not the story. For instance, as I say, I didn't know I was writing a series when I started. I wrote Webs of Power, which was the takeover, and that ends in 1990. In terms of the time period I chose was what was happening at that time. And I didn't know I was writing a series, but I had these characters that were so alive. I really know my characters better than I know my family because I know what they're thinking.
Well, that's an interesting thing because this is a show for writers and readers, but and I often ask fiction writers, how do you find your characters, or do they find you? Do they kind of pop into your head, and do they tell you what they're going to say, or do you tell them, or how does that work?
Do you know, I used to listen to writers. I'd see a panel and they'd say, well, my character just wouldn't let me do that. My character, I think, what do you mean? You're writing the story. Aren't you in control? It is absolutely true. If you develop your characters and you don't have cardboard characters, they are real people with their thoughts. And if maybe you have a storyline, a plot that you want, there are characters that aren't going to do that.
Well, there's some characters, I've heard writers say that some characters won't die when you want to kill them off.
There are things, actually, there was a panel with Stephen Cannell, Janet Ivanovich, and a few other mystery writers. And they were talking about this very same subject. And what happens if one of these characters takes over your book? Janet's answer to that was, character tries to take over my book, I shoot the blank blank.
Right. Right. So yeah, characters can try to hijack a book or hijack a scene, or I guess they can get out of hand, right?
They can, and they can be, if you have a minor character that starts taking over, maybe you need to pull back, and maybe that character doesn't even belong in that book.
But can the characters ever surprise you and take the novel in a direction you didn't expect?
All of the time. All of the time. Now, as far as, I just came back from the Southern California Writers Conference. I've been on the staff there for quite some time. And as far as the characters and everything else, doing, what they want, I talk to writers about the way that they write. Some make a 50-page outline before they put the first word on the page. Some have to at least know the beginning and end of their story, which is sort of how I started out. Others just go by the seat of their pants, they put some characters down, and they see what happens. Which is the right way. The way I do it is the right way for me. There is no one right way. There's an infinite number of wrong ways, but there's no one right way to write. It's what works for you.
Yeah, and I do some coaching with writers, and I often say go where the energy is. You know, sometimes you start in the middle of a book, you know, or you just see a scene in your mind, right? And you just
Right.
start there, and you may have no idea where it goes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, many of the writers, because I work with a lot of writers and do critiques, if they tell you, oh, well, no, I want to start and read you chapter 3, because that's when it really gets exciting. Usually the answer there is that book should start at chapter 3.
Right. I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of writers sometimes get stuck where they try to get linear too fast. You know, it's like, well, I've got to write chapter 1, and then they get stuck there, you know, because it just is not a linear thing, especially in the early stages, is it?
You know, I tend to write in order, although sometimes they don't stay in order.
Well, it's okay if you don't get stuck there, but some people just, that stops them cold because they have the idea that that's the way you have to do it. I mean, if you do it naturally and it works for you, that's great, you know, but you don't have to do it that way.
No,
right?
I don't think always and never are things that just don't work.
Right.
People work differently. I remember I went to a conference where Fannie Flagg was there, and she's dyslexic, and she works in a very she writes a chapter here, there, and everywhere, and then she actually puts clotheslines across her living room and pins them up and puts them together. Now, I couldn't do that. That would not work for me.
Yeah. Some people use pegboards too, you know, and some people really want that hands-on feeling, you know.
Right.
Sometimes I've written as a journalist a lot of nonfiction. In the old days, we used to like, well, writing a more complicated book, take a scissors, you know, and cut out the typewritten pages.
Actually, if it came to typewriters, I probably wouldn't be a writer.
Yeah.
They don't spell any better than I do.
Yeah, it's true. So tell us a little bit so we can get a sense of, are these continuing characters throughout these novels, or is each one different?
No, there are different characters that come in.
Right, but
it is a series. However, each book stands alone.
Who's the main character that we follow?
Well, there are a couple of main well, actually, in Webs of Power, there are 3 main women, and you are introduced to all 3 of them. And all of them continue in all of the books. But after I wrote Webs of Power and then Twisted Webs, and in Twisted Webs, one of my main characters, who was Ashley, delivers twins at Long Beach Memorial Hospital. And on the day of their birth, one of the twins is kidnapped. You start out with the kidnapper for the first page and a half. You know who this man is, you know why he has kidnapped the child, and you find out that he is a good religious man who, out of love and desperation, has taken this child.
Oh, wow.
And in that one, Ashley is more the main character. In Webs of Power, with the takeovers and everything else, I thought Ashley was going to be the main character, and she's pretty close. But it is actually Paige, who, at the age of 42, this is when the whole takeover. I have stores. I have Bentleys and Bentleys Royale. I worked for Bullocks and Bullocks Wilshire, and I have consolidated as a company, and I was working for Federated. So they very much parallel what was happening in that world.
So the books have different plots. Do they tend to be like mystery, kind of go on the mystery side? Or?
Many times are miscategorized in mystery or thrillers. Mine are more toward thrillers because my characters, my readers, are in on a lot more information than any one of my characters, such as this kidnapper that starts.
Right, it's kind of like a Columbo movie. You sort of know right from the beginning who did it.
Well,
right?
in thrillers, you do know. And that is, you know, a lot of it. Like in Twisted Webs, you meet the kidnapper. But if you didn't read that prologue and you started out with chapter 1 with Ashley going out with one of her twins, you quickly come up to speed. You go through this book, and actually The man that kidnapped this child, this good religious man, his wife has lost her last chance of delivering a child. Her appendix burst from an in vitro in her 9th month, and they have had failed one. When he brings the child home, she does not know that this is a kidnapped child.
Oh, wow.
And something happens with the kidnapper. She never finds out that this is a kidnapped child. And so the reader knows, and so when this child is 2 years old and the mother is working in an area where Ashley comes in, and they almost put a play date together for these two because she does not know she has Ashley's missing twin. It ends up that Ashley is going back to Dallas because her husband happens to be the CEO of a store.
Well, that sounds like a close call, because should those two kids get together, they'd probably...
That's out. Well, absolutely. Yeah. And the only reason they don't, because another person is saying, oh, you both have 2-year-olds. Wouldn't it be great to get to one of those play dates?
Yeah, yeah.
That also is another time when they are 4 that they nearly come together.
So they kind of have these near close encounters.
And then they finally do get together at age 8, but the reader is on the edge of their chair because they want Ashley to get her child back. They do not want Erica to lose her child. And so...
Interesting conflict there. And you started writing later in life, right? You didn't.
I absolutely do. In fact, I'm on book tour next week, and I'm going to be doing 3 TV shows. What they are called, the topic is It's Never Too Late to Reinvent Yourself.
That's great. And we've just got a couple minutes left, so I know you've used book trailers, right? Talk a little bit about how has that been successful for you to publicize your book?
Absolutely it has, and the new book trailer on Unpredictable Webs. I love it. The director of the Southern California Writers Company also has a production company, and he's done the trailers for Webs of Fate, which very much attracted the producer that's interested in bringing my series.
So you've had an offer to make a television series out of them?
Yes, and it's a very solid offer. There can be options, and then there's other options.
Right, Hollywood, there's...
But this has been totally checked out. It's very exciting. And what this is going to be is bringing the whole world of departments. What is in for TV and movies right now is nostalgia. And this is the book, which is my prequel. After writing 2, my readers wanted to know more about my characters. And so I went back and wrote the prequel, which was actually the first novel I ever wrote. It had a good plot. I had to write it from a blank screen. But that is, the fashion is high, nostalgia, retro fashion is in.
And it's an exciting world that a lot of people don't know about, so they're going to be introduced to it through your work. My grandmother was a fashion designer, so out of California, sportswear, of course, all over the country, and in Bullocks, Wilshire, where her stuff was in the window all the time. But but if you don't grow up with that world, you kind of, don't know sometimes that it exists. So we look forward to seeing that. And where can people contact you or get your books?
All right, my website is darlenequinn.net, not .com.
.net.
Yes, because if you go to .com, you'll get to real estate.
Oh, okay.
And you can see my book trailers. There's a book trailer for each one. Okay. You can also read the prologues and first chapters.
Okay, and that's QUINN, 2
Correct.
N's, darlenequinn.net.
Yes.
Great, and the books are on Amazon as well.
They're on all online and in booksellers, anyone that sells books.
Great, well, thank you so much for being with us today. So, thanks to our guests, Mark Allen, Anita Rosenberg, and Darlene Quinn here on the Book Beat. And of course, this show is produced by Susan Levin, who gets these amazing guests, Susan at speakerservices.com. So join us next week, same time, same station, for the Book Beat. And this is the show with homework. So this week, find a good book if you can. Hope that you do. If you don't, think about starting to write the book that you want to read yourself. So see you next week on the Book Beat. And remember, all these shows are archived here at latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk.
You know, there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows,